Hi, it's Charles Kelly, Money Tips. Today, I want to give you 12 rich habits that will guarantee to make you wealthy. And if you don't follow these habits, the opposite will happen. You'll end up poor. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a quick announcement that I've got a webinar coming up this Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. It'll be on Zoom, so you can register for that below. And what I'll be doing there is unlocking the secrets of financial freedom, how to master the art of wealth building in 3 steps. So if you ever wonder why you never seem to have enough money, or why you can't seem to get enough money together, or you're worried about how you're going to retire or quit the rat race, join me on that webinar. So let's get into the 12 habits, right? 12 habits. What are habits, right? Habits are things that you do every day. Like, if you eat the wrong foods every day, you'll be unhealthy, you'll be overweight. If you don't exercise, you won't stay healthy and fit. So those are habits. Rather than say, I'll join the gym for a month and then I'll be okay for the rest of the year. No, it doesn't work like that. These are things you've got to do all the time. So these habits are specifically related to your wealth. And number 1 is to pay yourself first, right? What does that mean? It's an old cliche, really, but it's become a bit of a cliche. But it means, paying yourself first means paying and saving some money before you pay out everybody else. So it means you pay your money as you get your salary. You automatically have a deduction from that salary, and it goes straight into an investment account or a savings account before you pay everybody else. Now you might say, well, I can't do that. I haven't got enough money. Things are too tight. But if you start doing that, even if it starts with a small percentage of your income, even like £10, $10, and you'll find that you'll manage throughout the rest of the month, because that money is gone. You're not even thinking about it. But if you leave it till the end of the month, say, well, I'll leave it to the end of the month and whatever's left, I will save. It doesn't work like that. That's why people are forced to pay money into pensions by the government. You've got an automatic deduction because the government knows that people will spend the money otherwise, that they're not going to save for their retirement. So pay yourself first. Very, very important. And wealthy people live on a percentage of their income. That's all right for them. They've got money, they can live on. But no, it's not. There's a saying that the more you earn, the more you'll spend. And it's very true. And if you carry on like that, you'll never really build any wealth, because as you earn more money, you'll just have more holidays, buy a bigger house, buy a more expensive car. So you've got to get out of that, break that habit, and start living on a percentage of your income. Because people who build wealth tend to say, well, I'll live on a percentage of my income. And some have got it down to like 50%, 60%, 25% even, as they build up the wealth. Whereas other people will just spend 100% of their income no matter what they earn. I've seen this when I spent 25 years as a financial advisor. Okay, number 2 then is really live on a percentage of your income. So I've jumped into number 2 straight away there. Live on a percentage of your income, survive on that. And in my webinar, we're giving tips on how to achieve that, to live on a percentage of your income using the pots or jam jar system. Okay, number 3 is don't just save, invest. Okay, the first goal of saving is to accumulate a buffer. So accumulate at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses, so that no matter what happens in life, no matter what happens to the economy, to your job, to the world, all these sorts of things, you've got money to pay your bills, so that you don't get into trouble, you don't go into foreclosure on your house, and your credit rating starts getting wrecked. And that's very important. That's the first step. But the next stage is not to just leave your money in a bank account earning very little interest. You've got to start investing that income and looking for ways to make your money grow. Now you can get higher paying accounts, but generally they don't keep pace with inflation over the longer term. So you've got to look to put it into things that relate to investing, stock market, property, that sort of thing. The typical tracker fund in the S&P 500, an S&P 500 tracker fund with a company like Vanguard, for instance, has achieved near to 10% per annum growth over the last 20 years. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to achieve that in the future, but if you'd been putting X amount per month into that account, you'd have done very, very well. And you could just put it in there and forget about it. Have it deducted from your salary. It goes into that tracker fund and it grows. And these can be done tax-free in things like ISAs and IRA Roth accounts in America. There's ways of minimizing your tax there as well. So don't just save, invest. I've invested over someone, actually a listener from the Philippines who listens to me on Spotify said, why don't you give more examples of your own situation, Charles? Give people more examples of how it's worked for you. And okay, here's one. I invested into things like tracker funds and stock market, but I've also invested in property. and that has returned, multiple. It can be multiple returns over the years in growth and in income, well above the rate of inflation. So if I just left my money in the bank, it just wouldn't have grown as much as by investing it. Now, you don't have to invest in property. There's lots of other investments, and I go through these on my courses and workshops. But you've got to look. And yes, there's a bit of a risk, of course. Risk and reward and all that. So some people will have low thresholds of risk, some will have higher thresholds of risk. And if you're concerned about that, talk to a financial advisor, and they'll point you in the right direction and which fund might be suitable for you. Okay, the next thing, number 4, is to start investing and saving early. The earlier you start, the more you can accumulate. It sounds a bit obvious, but with compound interest, you've got to give compound interest a chance to work its magic. And the earlier you start, the better. When I was a financial advisor, we'd project forward and say, like, this is what you'll get if you save, say, £100 a month into the pension. This is what you'll get back at 65, which was the state retirement age at that time. And they say, yeah, that's great. And then we'd say, look at this. This is what you get back at 60. And believe it or not, it was for the same investment, it was half the amount of fund. So if they get $1 million for at 65, by taking it at 60 or starting 5 years later, it would halve the value of that fund, so $500,000. And that's pretty much the same nowadays, because you're not giving a compound interest a chance to work. Little teaser for you. In my webinar, I'll be going through this. If you had a penny and it doubled every day for 30 days, how much money would you have at the end of 30 days? Think about that. If you're not sure of the answer, tune in on Wednesday night for my webinar. So a penny doubling every day for 30 days, what would it be at the end of that period? How much would you have? Okay. Right. So start investing early. It sounds a bit obvious, but just do it. Number 5 is to manage and organize your money. Unless you're managing your money, no matter how much you earn, you'll never accumulate wealth, because you'll just spend it. And we've seen this in my book, Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness. There's a chapter on the stars who lost it all, because they earned millions and yet still managed to blow it and end up broke, sometimes bankrupt, even movie stars, and big pop stars and that sort of. They ended up, by mismanaging the money, they lost it all. And I saw this as a financial advisor. I saw people who were earning a lot of money but never accumulated any, and I saw people on small and medium sort of incomes, working in ordinary jobs, yet they managed their money and they were able to accumulate a lot of money and wealth, and still have a good life as well. So it's not about living poor and scrimping and saving to be rich in the future. You can live rich now and live rich in the future. So you've got to learn to manage your money. And in my webinar, I'll give you some real good tips on managing your money, organizing your money so that you know where it's going, and then you can really start accumulating money. Number 6 is to budget your spending, rather than just all your money coming in and just spending it indiscriminately, willy-nilly here and there, going out, doing this, buying this in the shops. Have a budget for it. And again, in my webinar on Wednesday, I'll talk about how to budget and how to use a budgeting system so that you never go over. Because if you don't have a budget, John Maxwell said a budget is telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went, right? So unless you budget your spending, you just won't work. You've got to budget your spending, because it's all these little things you buy and do this, and people say, I'll come out at the weekend. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I haven't quite got the money, but I'll put it on my card maybe, and I'll pay it off next month. Does that really work? No. So you've got to be able to budget your spending. Number 7 is to know your numbers. Do you know, for instance, what your minimum amount you need to earn to cover all your expenses? So if I said to you, what do you need to earn every month to cover all your bills and all your essential expenses and that sort of thing? Do you know that number? Do you know which are the essential bills and which are non-essential, like your TV subscriptions, your 3 TV subscriptions that you never get around to watching? Do you know all those, right? Because if you don't, then this is the first thing you should find out, right? Find this out. Have a budget planner. Have a spreadsheet where you know exactly what's coming in, where it's going. Because people I know that have accumulated money always do this. They always know their numbers, right? Business people know their numbers. Good businesses know their numbers. They know how much they need to earn every month to pay all the bills, to pay the staff. They know the peaks and troughs throughout the year. So another tip is to think of yourself as a business, because in effect, we are all businesses. We are hiring ourselves out for money. although you might be working for somebody, in effect, you're hiring yourself out for money. So think of yourself as a business, and what a business would do, they'd have meetings, they'd have board meetings with, your board meeting could be on your kitchen table with your family. It doesn't matter. You don't need a boardroom, okay? And you don't need to be a director. You're a business in effect. Okay, so know your numbers. Number 8 is to avoid bad debt and credit, things like credit cards, loans. And what I call bad debt is using debt to buy consumer goods, TVs, cars, things that go down in value, or even paying for your holidays on credit card and hoping you'll pay it back at some stage. Fly now, pay later, that sort of thing, with interest. Even interest-free credit schemes are designed to trap you into eventually paying a lot of interest. And the average interest on credit cards now, I looked at one here, NatWest, 22%, right? Gone up from 18 to 22%. That's scandalous, really. And that's one of the lower ones. That's not even the most expensive. So how can you pay 22% on your cards when you've got money in the bank earning 1%, 2%, 3%? It doesn't make sense. So you've got to have a plan to pay off any debt that you've got, and then avoid using it in the future. Warren Buffett, one of the richest investors and most successful investors ever, one of the richest men in the world, said, buying consumer goods on credit cards and paying 18% is dumb. Funny enough, he owns credit card companies. He owns banks and credit card companies because he makes money from dumb people who pay 18% on their money. He said you can't make 18% on your money. So in one of his shareholder meetings, he advised somebody live to pay off their debts before starting to invest, because he said you won't make 18% a year every year on investing in the Berkshire Hathaway fund or an S&P tracker fund or a stock market. You'd have to be a really good investor to make that money. So by paying off the 18% debt first, you could be much further ahead than, say, investing and still having the debt on the side, if you know what I mean, right? I'll go through more of this in some of my webinars. Okay, so going through this quickly now. Number 9, I said avoid bad debt in the last tip, but the habit of using good debt is also a good habit. Good debt is leverage. It's using good debt to, say, buy your property, or to buy an investment property, or to buy a company, or to buy something that will go up in value rather than something that goes down in value. So business people who've accumulated vast wealth have always used other people's money. I talk about it in my book, Borrow and Grow Rich. They've always used other people's money or leverage. Other people's money can be your mortgage company. I've used leverage or a mortgage, a buy-to-let mortgage, to buy properties. I would never have been able to do that if I was just trying to save, because the value of the properties were going up faster than I could save. And the interest on my savings account was never enough to keep pace with the value of properties going up, right? So if you found this, if you ever tried to save for a deposit on a property and found that, you've been looking around for years and years and years, and in the meantime, the properties have been going up and up and up, you think, wow, I just bought 5 years ago rather than waiting, okay? So use good debt where you can, if it's good debt, but certainly avoid that bad debt that I talked about. So I'm not saying all debt is bad. I'm just saying there is some good debt and there's some bad debt. And clearly, credit cards and these sort of overdrafts are very bad debt because they cost you so much. Okay, number 10 is to develop the right money mindset. Okay, now people say, oh, mindset, I know all about that. I've read The Secret. I watch YouTube videos and I see all these people and I know all about mindset. But believe me, you've got a money blueprint there. You've got a money blueprint. It comes from your family, your friends, and people you hang around with, and that could be holding you back. So in my webinar, I talk about how to develop the right mindset, how to talk to yourself properly so that you get out of these bad mindset habits like saying, well, all rich people are fat cats, they're all stinking rich, they've all cheated their way to the top. No, that's a bad mindset, because if you think wealthy people are like that and they're all this and that, then why would you want to be like them? You probably say, I'd rather be poor and be noble. Well, there's no nobility in being poor, believe me. So you've got to develop the right mindset. And number 11 is to educate yourself. And this is about educating yourself around business, how business works, how the stock market works, how money works, how pensions work, how finance works. These are very important things to do. Now, I'll give you another example. When I I mean, they don't teach this in school, obviously, and I left school not knowing about this stuff. But when I joined the financial services industry, I started learning. I started learning about finance, pensions, stock market, property, all these sorts of things, insurance and pensions and that sort of thing. And it opened my eyes to it. I was grabbing this information. I was going on courses and I took public exams and that sort of thing. It really stood me in good stead for the rest of my life. Even though I've been out of that industry for many years, it's kept me going in business and in life, you know. So you've got to educate yourself. And there are various ways of doing it. One way is to come along to my webinar next Wednesday, but things like making yourself aware. If you spent like an hour at the weekend reading a good weekend newspaper that covers money. I mean, in the UK, it could be the Sunday Times, the Saturday Telegraph, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times. If you just spent half an hour, if you don't want to buy it, go down to the library and get it. You know, if you just spent just that alone, that could make you a lot more aware than, say, on a Sunday just reading, you know, anything. So look, there's various ways of educating yourself. One way is to come along to some of my webinars and courses, but there are lots of ways. You can do a lot of reading. There's lots of books out there. There's lots of stuff, serious stuff I'm talking about now, to really make yourself aware so that you're not just relying on the advice of, you know, a financial advisor that maybe broke themselves, you know. So you've got to get the right education, and all the top investors talk about this. Learn about, you know, the markets, how they work, how companies work, how business works. You've got to know these things, because otherwise you're in the dark all your life. Okay, and number 12, finally, is to get around the right people and avoid toxic people. I don't mean disown all your friends and family. I mean, you know, try and be around the right people. And again, I'll give you another example of this. You know, when I wanted to learn about the internet, this is going back to like 2004, 2005, I joined some networking groups, and that really opened my eyes, because I got around the right people, and suddenly I was around people that was doing stuff on the internet before it really took off. You know, this is 20 years ago, and they said, yeah, you can do blogs, you can do video blogs, you can do this, you can do podcasts were around at that time, believe it or not, and I learned this stuff. I thought, wow. You know, and it was only by getting around those people. Yeah, I had to pay for some courses and that sort of thing, but just getting around those people, authors, and I learned that, you know, writing a book is not as difficult as I thought in my mind. You know, oh, got to write a book, I've got to get an agent, got to get a publisher. No, you can do it yourself. You know, I learned all these things by getting around the right people. So thank you for that suggestion of giving my own examples there from my lovely listener from the Philippines. I've got listeners from all and viewers from all over the world, by the way. So it's great. Welcome wherever you are. Listening from or tuning in from. Great to see you. I love to get your comments and your views and your feedback. It's really great. Okay, one other thing is, before I go, just wanted to tell you about, if you're a landlord and you've been hit by George Osborne's Section 24 tax, do check out my video below. And I also want to make you aware that by the end of this month, 28th of November, some associates of mine, some accountants, are running a free seminar that will teach you how to move your property from your own name into a limited company without paying capital gains and incurring stamp duty as well. So do check that out. You can check out the video and the link, but you can also come along to the seminar. Generally it's aimed at people with 3 or more properties or valuable properties. It's probably not worth doing if you've just got, you know, one little property and, you know, you're not worried about, and you're not paying higher rates of tax, for instance, so you're not bothered about it. But if you are suffering because you're into higher rates of tax, or you've got so many properties, you really want to get them tidied up into a limited company, but are worried about the tax, do check that out, the link there. And if you want to come along to the seminar, just drop me a line, charles@charleskelly.net. Okay, great. So don't forget, follow those habits, and do join me on Wednesday evening, Unlocking the Secrets of Financial Freedom, Mastering the Art of Wealth Building in 3 Steps. Check out the link and I'll see you there. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now. This is Charles Kelly, Money Tips Podcast, bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, and enjoy more money. See you soon.